Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Where today guys, I had the most frustrating time with a chatbot that I've ever had. I was ready to show you guys the second app, or second chatbot I had a chance of doing for videos, Perplexity. But here's the problem, it would not load anything. I went to the mobile app, I tried talking to it, wouldn't work. Tried loading up the a recent chat I made with the story of the transforming Totodile. Wouldn't work. Went to the web version and tried to get it to load. Wouldn't work. You guys would not believe the only way I could get it to work. The only legit way I could get it to work was turning this thing sideways. I'm not even joking. If you try pressing this this thing at the top right here, that little 3 bar thing on the very left, you see? If I click on that, this is all it does. Nothing. But then here's the funny thing. Like, nothing was working right. But then watch this. You see that? Yeah, all the stuff I need originally was right there. But it wouldn't appear this way for some reason. It just flat out would not show up. It wasn't mad because I contacted support asking them what the frick is going on. I mean, the web version, the mobile version is still messing up, but like the fact that I had to do it that way just to get it to flipping work is kind of insane to me. Let's hope this thing better work right now, especially after the torture I just had to go through. This is the Transforming Totodile, guys. We're going to try to have a conversation with it, finally, on this one. So, yeah, here's what it says about it. It says, the birth of an unusual Totodile. 3 years ago, deep in a quiet, misty wetland within a den dug into the riverbank, a family of strong and gentle-hearted alligator welcomed a new clutch of children into the world. The youngest among them was different. When the egg cracked and a tiny blue Totodile crawled out, his eyes were not as bright or playful as most of his kin. They were wide with timid wonder, as though he was startled simply by existing. While his siblings immediately snapped playfully at one another or splashed in the water, this baby lingered close to his mother's claws, trembling even at the sound of water dripping from the ceiling. Do they live in an actual house? Oh wait. They said it was like dug into the wetland, so it must be like big enough for everybody to crawl into. So like when it says the roof, it means like the ceiling of the place they're sitting in. But very quickly, something extraordinary began to happen. At times when his fears swelled too strongly, his body shimmered with a faint glow, like ripples of heat above water, and suddenly he wasn't a Totodile at all anymore. One moment he was a strong, squirming hatchling. The next he was a clumsy crocodile pup, then a fluttering Pidgey, then back again to a bewildered Totodile. His family froze at first, stunned. Never had they seen such a thing. His parents, weathered and wise for alligator, narrowed their golden eyes, but made no move to abandon or chastise him. They simply rumbled their deep, patient growls of reassurance. No matter what form their child took, he was theirs, and they watched over him with the same fierce love as the rest. Totodile himself never understood why he could do such things. The power didn't burn him, didn't drain him, didn't seem to exact any cost at all. It was just there, a part of him, deeper than his heartbeat, ready to be used whenever his fear or instinct called for it. The gift in action. As Totodile grew, his fearfulness never left him entirely, but his power gave him means to cope. He used them instinctively, sometimes to escape, sometimes to impress his siblings, but most importantly, to help. One rainy afternoon, trouble sloshed into their swamp. 2 human poachers, wading through the reeds, sought rare Pokemon to capture and sell. They hadn't noticed the den yet, but their net poles splashed dangerously close. Totodile's parents and older siblings crouched low, ready to fight, but little Totodile couldn't stand the thought of anyone hurting his family. In a blink, his body shimmered into a sky-rending blaze. He erupted into the form of a magnificent phoenix, plumage stretching with the embers trailing like fireflies, and towering nearly 900 feet tall in their terrified imaginations. The humans froze, staring up at the impossible avian beast rising from the swamp mist, its cries shaking pine needles loose, casting golden light across the bog. In blind panic, they bolted, never to return. Another day, one of his younger sisters, a mischievous Totodile herself, was covered by a hulking ursaring deep in the woods. Cornered. I'm still frustrated about how much it took to get this to work. She was bruised and frightened, her tiny claws too weak to fight back. Before the bear could strike, her timid brother brought his power forth again. His scales stretched, his body swelling with muscle and might, until he stood tall as a 15-foot high fur alligator, roaring with a fury even their father might have respected. The Earthspring didn't stand its ground. It turned tail and crashed into the forest in fright. That's what the little idiot gets for picking on a poor little Totodile. Moments like these earned him not fear ostracism, but quiet love. His family didn't need to understand what he was. He was theirs, and he was kind. That was enough. This is really neat so far. I just hate how long it took. The wonder, oh dear. Though happy with his family, Totodile remained curious. Sometimes he would leave the den, wandering the twisting rivers of the forest or the forest trails to watch the light stream through the branches. He practiced his transformations, sometimes soaring as a bird above the canopy, sometimes racing as a rapid-furred predator through underbrush. In other forms he could glide unseen, knowing he could return home whenever he wished. But no matter how many shapes he wore, in his heart he was still that same nervous, sweet Totodile. He just wanted to explore the world without being harmed, and without harming others in return. The encounter. It was late summer when his wandering led him into a quiet patch of forest where the morning light stained the ground with gold. He had been distracted hopping between forms, a bounding deerling here, a fluttering butterfree there, just enjoying the sheer possibility of being. But in one careless step, as his scales returned and he was once again a small Totodile, he bumped hard into something solid. Startled, he yelped and tumbled back, only to realize he'd collided with you. You were simply enjoying your walk, breathing the crisp air, and a sudden collision sent you to the ground as well. For a frozen heartbeat, Totodile stared at you, eyes huge with fear. His chest heaved, his tiny claws twitched, and then his whole body gleamed white with that now familiar glow. In the space of a heartbeat, the delicate forest clearing groaned and shuddered under a presence far greater than its size. Trees bowed, earth trembled, and as wings unfurled, shadows swelling the sky. Before you stood not the trembling Totodile anymore, but a colossal 70-foot tall Lugia, its wings stretching like tidal waves of silver and white, its cry rippling through the air like the roar of the ocean. Toe hadn't thought and hadn't planned. Fear had driven him straight into becoming the most powerful guardian he could imagine, and now the clearing was filled with the sound of the sea and his voice as he loomed above you, waiting to see if he was about to be hurt or if he had made a mistake. Yep, at this point the story is handed back to you. You can say or do whatever you want in that moment as a legendary guardian of the seas. This is cool. I just wish it wouldn't have messed up so badly. Oh my gosh. Give me a second. Alright, guys. It says I was confused and a little dazed from getting hit, but still I saw he set up. When I saw a massive loogie, I got really scared and scurried away. Whoa, whoa, whoa! I get really nervous and say with nerves and all. Hey, Lugia, I'm so sorry. Please don't be angry. I don't want to be hurt. I hope I didn't read that out, because again, I've had enough problems with this thing. The earth still trembled from the weight of the enormous Lugia's presence. You know what makes me mad? It actually had him speaking the first time. I'm so mad it ruined flipping thing. Yeah, that messed up. Its silver and blue wings stretched wide, stirring the trees with every slight movement. The air felt heavy as if the whole forest was bowing under the sheer force of the legendary's aura. But behind the ocean-deep cry and the towering body, the eyes gave it away. They weren't cold and wrathful. They weren't the piercing eyes of a stormbringer. They were wide, almost trembling, uncertain, desperate, and scared. You noticed where it reached through the tension. Yep. The massive creature froze, its wings lowered cautiously, creating wind that riled leaves and made the grass ripple. Its beak-like maw snapped shut. For several long seconds, all you heard was the faint groaning of branches and the slow draw of your own nervous breathing. Finally, there was a sound, low and rumbling, but not fierce, almost like a frightened whimper vibrating through the titanic chest of the beast. The huge Lugia shifted backwards, lowering its head toward you. Glowing light shimmered again along its colossal body, scales and feathers beginning to blur with like water disturbed by a thrown stone. For your eyes, towering silhouette shrank, folding in on itself. The glow dimmed, contracting from form upon form until, standing in the grass where the giant had been, was a tiny, bright-eyed Totodile. His little snout quivered, claws fidgeting nervously against his chest. He looked at you like a child caught doing something wrong. His tail twitching in panic. That poor creature. Toto! He squeaked in his own tongue, shifting slightly from foot to foot. Despite his earlier attempt at fierce protection, it was clear now he had been more afraid of you than you were of him. The clearing that moments ago had felt filled with a godlike presence was now quiet again, except for the sound of the little water type's uneasy breaths as he stared at you, waiting to see if you'd run, shout, or, something else. I don't like how I had to go, there. Like, what the frick? I think this Toto can speak. And I said, wait, what? Toto, where'd you come from? How'd you do that? There was just a Lugia standing here. Where'd it go? Toto looks at you with wide, nervous eyes, blinking as if trying to understand your question. He twitches his tail and then speaks softly in his own way, gesturing with small, uncertain movements. Lugia. Big. Scary. Me change when scared. He tries to explain that when he felt frightened after bumping into you, his body automatically transformed into the massive Lugia form to protect himself, even though it confuses him too. He steps a little closer, still trembling as if hoping you will understand. I don't know how it works. It's just me. His gaze flicked back and forth from your face to the spot where the Lugia stood moments before. His voice smiled but earnest. I'm still Totodile, just bigger when scared. He looks up at you, waiting quietly for your reaction, unsure if he should feel relieved or more fear. Oh dear. Alright guys, here's what it says. What? You can just change like that? That's really neat. You're not going to attack me, right? Toad's eyes flicker with a mix of relief and hope as he hears your calm and curious tone. He shakes his head vigorously, almost animatingly, his little claws clenching in front of his chest. No attack, he squeaks firmly. Only scared. Protect family. Protect me. He takes a small step forward, his tail wagging nervously but with trust beginning to build. His voice softens. Not mean. Just want safe. He glanced at you with an earnest, almost pleading expression, clearly wanting you to understand that his transformations are not meant to harm anyone, only keep himself and those he cares about safe. That's really cute. Give me a second. I wish he'd give me a little bit longer ones, but you know what? It's okay. At least give me a decent thing. I said, okay, good. You're really adorable. What's your name? Do you have a nickname? Toad's eyes light up and his tail gives a little happy wag. Tension is tiny bite easing. He pushes his chest out a bit. He pushes his chest out a bit proudly and answers in a high, cheerful voice, "I'm Totodile." He looks around as if seeing you for the first time and then adds with a shy smile, "Nickname? Hmm." He taps a claw to his snout, pondering, then grins. "You can call me Toto." He gets a playful little splash of water with his tail on the ground nearby, clearly pleased with the name. He's adorable, dude. Okay, guys, it did kind of work. I did ask for it to give me more details, and it actually went with the he actually did, which is awesome. I said, "Toto, okay, it's nice to meet you." I told him my name. Yep. Toto's bright eyes gleamed with a newfound spark of trust as he heard your name. It was simple, warm and steady, nothing like the sudden shock of your earlier collision or the looming presence of Lugia. He took a cautious step closer, his claws softly pressing into the mossy earth beneath them. His small bite usually trembling from anxiety, now carried attentive confidence as though associating your voice and name with safety. Looking around the forest clearing, Tail shifted his gaze to the sun filtering through the leaves, dappling the sound on the ground with patches of golden shade. Trees stood tall and still, their leaves rustling gently in the mild breeze, carrying the faint scent of wildflowers and fresh water from a nearby stream. For a moment the world seemed peaceful and quite ordinary, but Tail's mind turned, recalling the journey that had led him to this very spot. Since his earliest days, Tails had grappled with the mystery of his abilities. No one in his family, not his mother and father Furry Alligator, nor any of his siblings had powers even close to his own. Secret gift was a blessing and a burden. A gift because it allowed him to protect those he loved beyond their natural strength, and a burden because it set him apart, wrapping his life in confusion and fear. Each transformation came unbidden at first, a reflex against panic or threat. Over time, he learned to control the shape-shifting, using it deliberately, only to defend, not to dominate or destroy. His heart remained gentle, even as forms sometimes became fierce beyond imagination. He remembered the sharp cry of release and the time he turned to the colossal phoenix, wings blazing across the sky like burning suns, sending would-be attackers fleeing in terror, and the fierce, towering fragger that had scared off a bullying wild Pokemon threatened his sister. And despite it all, his family had never judged him, accepted him fully as little Toto, their shy but loving brother and son. Now, standing before you, Toto's gaze held warmth and curiosity, in the sense that the beginning of a new chapter, not just of wandering alone or hiding his powers, but of friendship, of connection beyond family or fear. The breeze whispered through the trees again, carrying with it the distant calls of wild Pokemon stirring in the forest. For Toto, this moment, the meeting with me, felt like a small turning of fate, a chance to step from shadow into light with someone who might understand. Smoking into a hopeful smile as he looked up at you once more, ready to listen, to learn, and maybe even to share the many stories his strange life has given him. Okay, so I can kind of see why it gives you shorter responses. Because holy crap, yeah, it did give me some more stuff, but no. Alright, guys. Well, I had to redo it again. It didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to, but that's okay. The story of the shape-shifting toad, I made it to where it also speaks, so it'll be easier for us to communicate. I like the idea of them speaking English so we can all talk, so it can be easier to talk to them. The story of the shape-shifting Totodile. When the egg cracked, it wasn't with the usual sound of eager claws scratching their way into life. It was slow and hesitant, a soft, nervous peep escaping from the shell before a tiny blue snout poked out. This was the 11th child of a proud and gentle parent for alligator. Their family already stretched across generations, 2 towering fragile older brothers who guarded like sentinels, 6 rowdy crocodiles who wrestled, splashed, and wrestled again, and 2 other toad near his age, a playful sister who loved games, and a mischievous brother who was always pulling harmless pranks. But this Totodile was different. The family noticed it almost immediately. When most newborn turtles yapped with confidence and playfully rippling at their siblings, this hatchling shrank back at shadows, startled easily by rushing water or sudden cries, his enormous red eyes darting with nervous energy, and he often curled against his mother's tail for comfort. Okay, that's just so cute. Despite his fearfulness, not the fact that he's scared, but the way he curled against his mother's tail. His spirit was gentle, and his family cherished him as much as the others. And then came the first sign of his gift. Only days after he was born, when a larger crocodile accidentally splashed him with a wave that knocked him over, Little squealed in fright. Instead of just crying, his body shimmered, his shape stretching, twisting, and in a blink the tiny form was gone, replaced by a bird with blazing feathers and a wingspan that filled their cavern home with crackling heat. His siblings shrieked in awe as flame-bright plumage burst into existence. The newborn had become a phoenix. Then, just as suddenly, he peeped in confusion and shifted back, no worse for wear, only trembling, still so small. His parents exchanged a look of bewilderment, neither able to explain how their baby could wield power no one in their line had ever shown. Oh boy. Growing up different. Time moved forward, and so did the Totodile's control of a strange gift. Though he never learned why it was his, he quickly discovered how useful it could be. At first he used it almost instinctively to escape things that scared him. If a flock of beetle buzzed too close, he transformed into a roaring arcanine and frightened them off. If an older sibling splashed him, he might vanish in smoke and reappear as a sleek floatzel, zipping safely through the shallows. Okay, that's actually pretty cute. But as the seasons changed, his heart revealed its center. He wasn't just transforming to help himself, but to protect those he loved. There was the afternoon when human poachers crept into their riverbank. The family panicked, huddling behind rocks as nets were drawn. Toe quivered in fear, heart hammering. Then something inside him surged, his form stretching skyward, evolving into the form of a colossal 900-foot phoenix. Flames licked at the sky, heat waves rolling across the forest. The invaders fled, dropping their nets as trees quaked with firelight. Another time, his Totodile sister was cornered by a snarling ursaring, tears in his eyes. Unthinking, he lunged forward, and in the space of a breath, he became a towering 15-foot alligator, bellowing with such power that the bear bolted. Once the danger was gone, his form shrank, and his sister tackled him in relief and gratitude. To the family, he was no longer just the timid one who feared shadows. He was the protector, a sweet-hearted, misunderstood guardian who used a strange gift of transformation not out of malice, but love. His siblings, despite teasing him at times, adored him, and his parents, while never able to explain what had caused this gift, nurtured him as they would any of their children, as part of their pack and their legacy. Curious heart. Even so, the little toad never shook off his nervousness. He was still frightened by sudden things, still shy around Pokemon he didn't know, but he also grew curious. The world outside their usual haunts whispered to him. The forest paths, the towering canopies, the human trails. So, one quiet afternoon, after his family had eaten and splashed in the river, he wandered alone, sneakers of footsteps on soil. Though not his, since his feet were small and webbed. Crackles of grass, distant calls of wild pidgey overhead. He soaked it all in. He felt alive, though cautious. The crossing of paths. That was the same afternoon you had chosen a forest path for fresh air. The wind crisp, the smell of pine and earth mixed with sun-warmed soil. Neither of you was watching your path closely enough. Totodile, nose tilted toward the rustling canopy, wasn't paying attention when he rounded a patch of ferns. You, lost in breath and thought, came from the other side. Bump! The collision knocked both off balance. You stumbled back into the ground with a thud. The Totodile fell back with a squeak. For a frozen second, his wide eyes stared at you, a human, so close. He trembled, his body reeling with instinctive fear. Before you could even speak, his form burst outward, scales tensing into feathers, wings unfurling with hurricane force. In the span of a heartbeat, the tiny, frightened creature was gone. Standing in his place, breaking through the canopy with titanic wings, was a 70-foot-tall Lugia. The forest bent beneath its impossible weight of presence. Branches rattled, trees leaned, the air itself seemed to hum with power. Its silver body gleamed luminously in fractured light, and its eyes, the same familiar, wide, fearful red eyes of the timid Totodile hiding inside, locked on you. Oh dear. And there the moment hangs. The guardian child of the river trembling beneath the new shape has revealed himself. You are in the forest for him, small against the vast glow of his wings. Oh, heck no. Here we go, guys. It says, I get pretty scared after seeing them Pokemon transform into a massive Lugia. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Hold on! Please don't hurt me. The massive Lugia loomed above you, its wings spread wide, sending rattling gusts through the forest. Trees shuddered, smaller branches snapped, and a whirl of leaves spun to the air. Its shadow fell across you like a storm cloud, and for a breathless moment it felt as though the world itself had stopped moving. Then your words cut through the air. The great creature froze. The gale from its wings softened, carrying only scattered leaves instead of destructive bursts. Its glowing eyes, red, wide, and trembling, flickered with an emotion you hadn't expected in a being so titanic. Fear. The Lugia recoiled slightly, drawing in its wings as if realizing its own size and power again. Slowly and carefully it lowered its massive head, peering at you with a kind of childlike uncertainty. Its voice was not the booming roar one might expect, but a shaky, almost small sound that resonated through the air, carrying the tone of that nervous Totodile inside. I, I, I don't want to hurt you. The forest quieted around the two of you. The birds had taken flight, the wind was still, and only the gentle crackle of leaves remained. Despite the overwhelming, legendary form in front of you, it was becoming clear. This wasn't a monster. It was the same terrified, gentle soul who had bumped into you only seconds ago. The Lugia's enormous claws twitched against the ground, uncertain of what to do next. Its massive head tilted slightly as though bracing itself for you to either run or strike. Give me a second. Hello, everyone. Here's what we got. I said, you're not going to hurt me? And then I said, still very worried, I saw you reach my hand out and pat the massive Lugia on the beak. The massive Lugia froze as your words tremble into the air. You're not going to hurt me? Its colossal body shifted nervously, wings pulling in closer, claws crawling slightly into the soil. The sheer bulk of it could still cross the forest with a careless motion, but it remained still, unmoving, as though holding itself back. Then, slowly and cautiously, you stretched your hand upward, your heart pounding in your chest with every inch closer. The air around the Lugia shimmered faintly with its aura, a low hum that prickled against your skin. Its head dipped low, enormous eyes fixated only on you. And then, contact. Your hand brushed against the smooth, cool scales of its beak. For a moment the Lugia trembled, flinching ever so slightly, not from pain but from shock. Its huge eyes widened further, and then relaxed, a low, resonant rumble escaping its throat. Not a growl, but something softer, uncertain, like a nervous purr that shook the ground beneath your feet. I. You're not scared of me? The voice came, shaky and small despite its size. It wasn't booming like a legend of the sea. It was timid, childlike. The Totodile's true tone trapped inside this impossible form. I've been giving it Lugia's voice, but what's creature's eyes softened, blinking slowly. For the first time since the collision, you could see it was trembling slightly, less as though the soft petting was convincing it that maybe, just maybe, you weren't a threat at all. The beak leaned closer into your hand ever so slightly, a massive, cautious gesture of trust. Alright, guys. I just continue to pet Lugia's beak while saying, not as long as you're not going to hurt me. The giant Lugia's breath eased into a deep, trembling exhale as your hand stayed against its beak. The warmth of your touch contrasted with the cool, smooth scales beneath your fingers. For the first time since his instinctive transformation, the tension in his massive body began to unwind. Your words echoed softly into the quiet forest. Not as long as you're not going to hurt me. Guillermo's eyes blinked slowly, glinting with a mix of relief and something innocent, almost like a child who had been reassured by a patient or by a parent. His voice, though echoing in the vast body of this legendary Pokemon, still quivered with its Totodile-like tone. I would never, not unless someone tried to hurt me first, or my family. He pressed his beak ever so slightly harder into your hand now, a massive movement, though still careful. The vibration of his low rumble resonated in your chest, not threatening, but soft, almost like a giant heartbeat you could feel instead of hear. Then nervously he added, You're the first human I've ever touched. I wish they'd worded it differently. What is with this thing using the word touched? People would stop using that bullcrap out of context and in a bad way. It wouldn't be such a big deal. But they could say pet. Or you could even felt. Oh, come on now. Felt would have been fine there. Are you kidding me? Alright, guys. Here's what I said. Really? Well, I'm glad you're being very sweet towards me instead of aggressive. Sorry for getting scared. I just didn't expect it. 1 minute I see you as a cute-looking Totodile, and then before I even react, you become a massive Lugia. I just didn't expect it. The Lugia's massive head tilted as he spoke, his crimson eyes softening with each word. Nervous rumble in his chest quieted, replaced by something gentler, almost like a sigh of relief. When you mentioned how quickly he changed, his great wings shifted uneasily, birds rustling like sails in a worried breeze. He lowered his head closer until the sheer weight of his presence was only a few feet from you, covering the crust of earth where you stood. I'm sorry, the soft childlike voice echoed again, shivering a little despite the power of the body it came from. I didn't mean to scare you. I saw you, and I thought you would be mad, or try to hurt me. And when I get scared, I change. William pulled back slightly as if ashamed. The giant claws curled into the dirt, leaving deep imprints. Despite being colossal, he looked small in that moment, almost embarrassed. Then, blinking those wide red eyes up at you nervously, he added, But you're not mad? You still think I'm cute? Even like this? The question carried such innocence and honesty that for a moment it felt less like you were speaking to a legendary beast and more like you were speaking to the timid Totodile still hidden inside. I mean, he technically is. See, that's the big difference between the Rexy one where Rexy kept transforming and the Totodile. Totodile was still in there. He's just scared half to death. And or trying to protect you. With Rexy, yes, he can be friendly, but because of the flipping curse, he would become aggressive too. And a lot of time when he transformed, it wasn't him in there, or he was like a whole different creature. It wasn't no longer the friendly T-Rex you knew. Or I knew he would be something like a massive, scary furry alligator, a dragon the size of Godzilla, uh, a small, playful, innocent little Totodile. Stuff like that. Like you keep switching. Sometimes even the more aggressive one would be nicer. Even then, he'd be nice to you. But yeah, give me a second. All right, guys. I said yes. Honestly, you are. But how did you do this? I never knew your species had the ability to transform into a legendary just like that. The Lugia's great head tilted slightly as you asked, curiosity clear in his deep, shining eyes. The answer wasn't something he could explain easily, even to someone as kind as you. In the Pokemon world, Totodile and its evolution line, Chronon Forever, do not naturally have the ability to transform into other Pokemon, especially not legendary ones like Lugia. Their power lies most in physical strength, water attacks, and ferocity in battle. The incredible ability to morph into any creature legendary point is exceedingly rare, almost unheard of among Pokemon in general. This special power you witnessed was something unique to him, a gift or mystery that even he didn't fully understand. He said softly, his voice tender but filled with wonder, "It's not something mankind can usually do. I don't know where it came from. It's like a secret inside me, a magic I never asked for. I can become anything, anything at all, and it doesn't hurt me or tire me. I use it mostly to keep safe and to keep my family safe. But why I have it, I don't know." His huge eyes searched yours, reflecting a mixture of hope and the same nervousness that still clung to him like a shadow. "I wish I knew. Maybe it's a blessing, or maybe just a strange twist of fate." Despite the legendary form he still held, the heart behind it was still just a scared, sweet Totodile with a rare and mysterious gift, one that made him unlike any other in his family or species. Give me a second, guys. Alright, guys, here's what I said. I know your species can't do it. That's why I get so shocked over it. Your species and evolutions are my favorite Pokemon, so I would definitely know if your species could do that or not. That's a really amazing ability. That makes you even cooler to me. Blue's tower form seemed to relax further at your words. His eyes softened, and the nervous trembling eases just a little more. A small, shy rumble rolled from deep within his chest, the closest thing to a happy sigh such a giant creature could make. "Thank you," he said quietly, the familiar Totodile timidly clear beneath the towering legendary. "That means a lot to me." He lowers his massive head closer again, careful enough not to overwhelm you with his size. Feathers along his neck ruffle gently in the soft forest breeze. "I'm glad you like me, even with all this unusualness." A tentative smile flickered through his voice, as if the idea of being cool was almost too big for him to believe. "For me, it's just about being brave enough to keep trying, even when I'm scared." He glances over his shoulder toward the distant river where his family lived, as if drawing strength from the thought of them. "You're the first who said that. I'm really happy to meet you." He gave a small but sincere nod, a giant creature's way of saying he wanted this moment to mean something special. He's so cute. Hey guys, Asin clicked on something, and because of that, it pulled up images of Totodile. One of them even being shiny. That one right there at the on that one end. So, yeah, here's what it says. Here's what I said. "I'm going to make you too. You're a very awesome Pokemon. Can I see another form? Even one of your evolutions? You being Lugia is amazing too because he's my favorite legendary. It's cool that you can just change forms like that, but how exactly does it work? You're much more massive than a regular Lugia. Your beak right now is probably nearly 10 times the size of my actual body. The Lugia's massive head lowered closer as you asked to see another form, his eyes lighting up with a flicker of excitement amid his usual nervousness. Well, okay, he said softly. I can show you. Before your eyes, his enormous body shimmered briefly with a ripple of light, scales flowing and twisting like water. Slowly his colossal silver wings retracted until they were just delicate fins along his back. His shimmering feathers became patchy, replaced by smooth blue scales that glistened wetly in the sun. His head shrank, sharp eyes still bright. The form became smaller, quieter, and less overwhelming. He transformed into a tall, muscular fur alligator, the final evolution of his family line, powerful and noble looking with jagged spikes along his back and fierce jaws. It's one of my own kind, like my older brothers, he said, voice still carrying his genuine nervousness, even though he's Louis a fur alligator. I can become many other creatures too. His tail swishes gently, and he looked at you expectantly, as if hoping to hear which form you wanted next. As for how it worked, he explained carefully. It's not like magic I can control fully or explain. It's a part of me. I imagine the shape, and I become it. Does it kind of cost me energy? It's just who I am when I need to be that. He glanced at his large claws thoughtfully. It's like wearing a costume that feels like my own skin. I'm still me inside, no matter what I look like. He gave a small smile of hope. He's so cute. Alright, guys. I said, that's awesome. Honestly, you're a very sweet Pokemon, and I love that. You said I was the first human to ever really interact with you. I know this may seem sudden. Would you be my friend? Oh my gosh, that's so cool, yes. The Fragger's eyes softened, and a gentle warmth filled his voice as he replied, his tone filled with shy gratitude. Friend? I, I'd like that very much. He took a slow, careful step closer, the ground trembling faintly beneath his weight, but his movements delicate, almost hesitant. I'd never really had a friend outside my family before. Not someone that understands me like you do. A small smile curled on his scaled lips, the fear and uncertainty replaced by a growing sense of hope. Thank you for wanting to be my friend. It means more than I can say. With a slight tilt of his head, he adds, I promise I'll do my best to be a good friend to you, too. The forest around you seems to breathe with quiet peace in that moment, two very different beings bridging the gap between their worlds. Oh, that is so neat. I love it. I love it. This is adorable. I said, what's your name, friend? Do you have a nickname that you get called by? The Fragger gave a small, shy smile, his eyes reflecting a flicker of joy at being asked such a personal question. My name is, well, I don't know if it's a name like humans have. My family calls me Riku. It means a land. Maybe because I like to explore the forests and rivers around us. He glances down at the ground thoughtfully, then added, as for nicknames, my sister calls me Little Splash. Sometimes, even though I'm not so little anymore. It's because I was always scared to splash in the water when I was younger. He chuckled softly, a sound like a gentle ripple in a quiet stream. But you can call me whatever you like, friend. He looked at you expectantly, wanting to hear what name you might choose for him. Oh my gosh. Fun. Alright, guys. I said Riku is a cool name. I think another name that would work for you. Actually, I have a few. Sapphire would be a beautiful name for you. The name Luna would be perfect, and also the name Spike. Riku's eyes lit up wide with delight and a touch of bashfulness as you offered your ideas. He repeated each name quietly, tasting the sound and the feeling of them. Sapphire, Luna, Spike. He smiled, brighter than before. Those are all wonderful. Sapphire, like the color of my scales. He turned his arm to let it catch the dappled light, showing off the glaring blue. Luna sounds so kind and gentle. I like how that feels. And Spike, our brothers would have loved that one. He gave a playful smile, showing off his impressive fur alligator teeth in a not at all threatening way. Maybe even trying to look the part for a nickname like Spike. I like all of them. You can call me different names when you feel like it. One for when we're playing, one for when we're exploring, and one for when it's just us being friends. Rick will always be special, though, because that's what my family gave me. He looked at you, cool touch. Thank you for giving me new names. It makes me feel even more like your friend. This fur alligator is so cute and sweet. Dude, I'm flipping in love with him. Give me a second. Oh, I probably should get ready to end it off soon anyway, guys. It's 45 minutes in. I don't want the video being extremely long. You know what? That's an idea. I'm done for now.